Hey everyone, ready to get cooking. We're diving deep into Indian cooking today, but not just any cookbook, we're going full on science with Masala Lab, The Science of Indian Cooking by Krish Ashok. It's like less recipe book, more like the engineering secrets behind delicious Indian food.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Ashok's actually a software engineer, so he brings this like analytical, almost like a problem-solving approach to cooking.
Right, and it totally changes how you see things. Like, I thought I knew spices, but this book, wow, he starts strong too. Chapter 1, Zero Pressure Cooking, gets right to the heart of it all, heat.
Well, and this chapter is, I'd say, essential for anyone who wants to really master their pressure cooker. Ashok demystifies it all, how it works, why it works. It's about trapping the steam, creating this high-pressure environment where the boiling point of water is, get this, 121 degrees Celsius?
121 degrees, that's why my dal cooks so much faster in there.
Exactly. It's that higher temperature that makes it so fast.
Yeah.
And it's not just for lentils. He breaks down how different foods behave under that kind of pressure. So you get that perfect cooking time every time.
All right, chef's tip number 1 already, folks. Ditch the guesswork. Use Ashok's pressure cooking guide. But speaking of flavor, Chapter 2, Science of Spice and Flavor, that one really got me thinking.
Yeah, this is where he digs into sensory science, which is fascinating. Like, did you know taste is actually a combo of 5 basics? Sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami.
Okay, yeah.
But here's the thing, a huge part of how we experience those tastes, our sense of smell.
Oh, absolutely. That explains why certain smells, they just, like, take you back. My mom's chicken curry, instant childhood flashback.
It's powerful, right?
Yeah.
Ashok explains it's the aroma molecules. They go straight to our brain, the parts that deal with emotion, memory. It's a direct link to those experiences.
Food, it's more than just eating. It's like time travel. But let's get into how those flavors actually develop. Chapters 3 and 4, Maillard Magic and the Power of Pucker, totally changed how I cook. I'm not even kidding.
Maillard reaction, right? This is where things get seriously delicious. Think about that perfect sear on a steak or those caramelized onions. That's the Maillard reaction doing its thing.
Like a VIP ticket to Flavor Town.
Got it. It's this, complex chemical reaction. Amino acids and sugars, high heat, creates hundreds of new flavor compounds. What Ashok does so well is he breaks it down, even I can understand it, and I'm no scientist, and he doesn't stop there. He gets into acid, which is often overlooked in cooking.
I'll admit, I thought acid was just, to make things sour.
Sure, a squeeze of lime, you get that tang, right?
Sure.
But the real power of acid is balance. It makes sweet flavors brighter, salty flavors mellower. It makes everything pop.
Makes total sense. Like a squeeze of lemon in a rich curry or tamarind in a chutney, that little bit of zing.
Exactly. It's about harmony. And Ashok gives these great examples from Indian cuisine specifically, how chefs have used this for, centuries, really.
So we're talking like masterful chemistry here, not just cooking. But before we get too carried away with the science, any key takeaways from these chapters so far? What's one thing our listeners could try today? Chef's tip time.
Okay, if you want to level up instantly, browning. Don't be afraid of a little heat. Get those veggies caramelized. Sear that meat. That's where the magic happens, that Maillard reaction we were talking about.
Love it. And on that delicious note, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're diving into some unexpected ingredients and techniques that Ashok reveals in the later chapters. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. We're back and ready for more Masala Lab. That Maillard reaction, the acid balance, so good. But then Ashok, he throws some curveballs our way, ingredients I never saw coming.
Right. It's really interesting, actually. Remember how we talked about aroma, how important it is to flavor? Well, Ashok, he says alcohol can really boost those aroma compounds and spices.
Hold on, alcohol? I thought we were cooking, not making cocktails.
Not quite. He's talking about adding a splash, like vodka or brandy, to your spices before the water. It helps release those flavor molecules, acts like a solvent, extracts maximum flavor.
So it's like supercharging the spices. I'm listening.
Exactly. And don't worry, most of it cooks off anyway. He even suggests which alcohols go best with what spices. It's very specific. Now, ready for another surprise guest. Baking soda.
Baking soda. Okay, you're losing me. That's for, like, cookies, right?
You'd be surprised. Remember the Maillard reaction, how much we love browning? Baking soda can actually speed that up.
Wait, a shortcut to Flavor Town? Tell me more.
It's all about the pH. Baking soda, it creates a more alkaline environment, which the Maillard reaction loves. Faster browning, bigger flavors, less time on the stove.
Okay, I have to try this. What else can this magic powder do?
Remember those lentils?
Yeah.
the ones that can be a pain to cook sometimes. Baking soda helps break down that tough stuff in their cell walls, the pectin. They cook faster, more evenly. Even in the pressure cooker, he suggests a pinch. Saves time, energy, perfectly tender lentils every time.
Chef's tip number 2, folks. Write this down. Okay, now the big one. This one threw me for a loop. Ashok, he actually suggests. Microwaves for Indian cooking. I thought those were for reheating leftovers.
I know, it sounds almost wrong, doesn't it? But he explains the science really well. Microwaves, they heat food by making water molecules vibrate, creating heat. And you're not going to get those slow-cooked flavors, he admits that. But for certain dishes, certain techniques, it has its place.
Okay, I'm skeptical, but go on. What kind of dish are we talking that can meet Ashok's standards, but from a microwave?
He has this chana masala recipe, entirely in the microwave. Chickpeas, spices, coconut milk, the usual suspects. A few minutes in there and boom, flavorful, satisfying, way faster than on the stovetop.
Okay, maybe I judged too quickly.
He even talks about drying herbs in there, making instant pulao, even dehydrating things for a more concentrated flavor. It's about being open-minded, experimenting a little.
Not just following recipes, but understanding the why, then getting creative.
Exactly. Which brings us to chapters 7 and 8, where Ashok introduces this cool idea of a meta model for Indian dishes. Not just a list of recipes, but like a framework.
So instead of being limited by one recipe, you can make it your own based on what you like, what you have on hand.
Exactly. He breaks it down. You've got your gravies, your rice dishes, breads, chutneys, and he gives you the guidelines for adjusting the flavors, the textures, even swapping ingredients.
That's amazing. Like, he's giving you the keys to the kingdom, but you get to choose the decorations.
And he gets into the science of specific techniques, too, like how chopping onions differently changes their flavor, or how roasting veggies before adding them to gravy makes them sweeter. It's about making choices, informed choices, in the kitchen.
This meta model thing is a game changer, seriously. Especially for someone like me. I love to experiment. It's like having a culinary GPS or something.
Speaking of culinary masterpieces, Ashok dedicates a whole chapter to, well, it had to be done, biryani.
Biryani. The dish that can start a family war over whose recipe is the real one?
And Ashok, very wisely, he doesn't take sides in that debate. But he uses biryani as the ultimate example. Understand the science of each step, and you get extraordinary results.
So no picking favorites in the biryani battle, just the scientific roadmap to success, no matter what your family says. I love it.
Exactly. He breaks it down into what he calls tracks. The rice track, the protein track, onion, even a masala milk track. Explains the science of each one, how they all fit together for that perfect biryani symphony.
Okay, tell me, what does he say about the rice? Getting those perfectly separate, fluffy grains? That's my nemesis.
It's all about the starch, he says. Rinsing off the excess, soaking it right for even cooking, nailing that water ratio.
Like he's demystifying the whole thing. Biryani, it's not just magic, it's science you can master.
Exactly. And that's what's so great about this book, It's not just how to cook Indian food, it's understanding the why, which makes you a better cook, more confident.
It's like he's saying, hey, don't just follow the recipe, understand it, play with it.
Absolutely. And that's what we'll be talking about next. How this deeper understanding of the science behind Indian cooking can actually change your whole relationship with food.
We've been digging deep into the recipes, the techniques, all the science, but honestly, this book, it's made me think about food totally differently.
It really changes your perspective, doesn't it?
Totally. Like, I'm not just throwing spices around anymore. I'm like a culinary chemist or something.
That's exactly what Ashrak wants, to bring that engineer's mind into the kitchen.
Because when you understand the why, it's like you've got this secret weapon.
It's like he says in the book, imagine learning chemistry, but all you do is read about famous chemists. Inspiring, sure, but you're not going to understand those reactions, are you?
Exactly. Recipes are great, don't get me wrong. But they're just the start. It's when you get that deeper understanding, that's how you really become a good cook,
You become an active participant, not just following instructions.
And it got me thinking, we talk about the science of cooking, but what about the science of eating? If cooking is all these chemical reactions, what's happening when we taste something, remember a flavor, all that?
That's the big question, isn't it? He leaves us with that. It's fascinating to think about. On one hand, yeah, we know it's chemical reactions happening on our tongues, in our noses, sending signals to our brains.
Right. Sweet, salty, all those basic tastes. It's all molecules doing their thing.
But then you've got this whole other layer, the emotions, memories, even cultural stuff. It all gets tied into food. One smell can take you right back to childhood.
It's true. A dish that's like total comfort food for you could be totally weird to someone else. It's like food is this perfect mix of science and, well, something more. Your own history, your culture, shared experiences, all wrapped up in what you're eating. And knowing the science behind it, it just makes you appreciate it even more, I think.
It definitely adds a new dimension. Like, think about a beautiful tapestry. You see the colors, the patterns, it's amazing. But then you learn how it was woven, the history behind the design. Suddenly you're seeing it on a whole other level.
Exactly. And I think that's what this book does so well. It's not just how to make Indian food taste good, it's opening your eyes to all the layers underneath, the traditions, the techniques, even just the fun of experimenting in the kitchen.
It's about approaching cooking with both curiosity and a little bit of that scientific mindset.
So, to everyone listening, next time you're in the kitchen, remember, you're not just cooking, you're a bit of a scientist too. Have fun with it. And if you want to really level up your Indian cooking game, Masala Lab by Krish Ashok is, well, it's a must-read. Until next time, happy cooking, everyone.